Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Trailblazers. My name is Lincoln. I am a Climate Corps Fellow up in Oakland with the Education and Training team. And today I'm going to be interviewing Natalie St.Clair. We're really excited to have this opportunity to explore the people who are working at the Energy Coalition and learn a little bit more about what brings them to this work. How's it going, Natalie?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing really well. I'm good, glad to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for being here. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Natalie St.Clair. I'm a senior project coordinator at the Energy Coalition. I've been here about 6 months now. And basically, my job is to help cities and other public agencies save energy and reduce their greenhouse gas emissions through the Southern California Regional Energy Network.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of responsibility. I'm curious, who are some of these public agencies that you're helping?
So we work with all sorts of agencies like school districts, that would be high school districts or kindergarten through 8th grade, water agencies and wastewater agencies.
Cool. That's good to know. I'm glad somebody's helping them out with all that energy. It's a lot of work.
It definitely is.
But where did you come from?
So I actually grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, as you can see on that map, with my parents and 2 brothers and our dog Cordelia. And I only just moved out to California about 1.5 years ago.
Wow, why'd you move out here?
Well, I was doing a fellowship just like the one you're doing through Climate Corps.
Nice. And I see here, what does your family like to do together?
Well, my family loves being outdoors. We took a lot of camping and hiking trips growing up because Kentucky has all sorts of state parks and wildlife. This picture here is from a trip that I took with my brothers, canoeing through the Everglades in Florida. And we spent about 4 nights camping on the Everglades Islands and canoeing.
Wow, that must be really magical being out there with your family in nature.
It was really beautiful. And that was definitely one of the first reasons that drew me towards environmentalism.
So, what are some of the things you like to do when you're not at work? I know you like your work, but what else?
Well, when I'm not at work, I love to go outdoors. That picture on the right is from a really big hike that I took in Peru called the Salcantay Trek. But right now, everyone's under quarantine, so I'm not spending so much time outdoors, and I'm developing some other hobbies too, like yoga and reading and writing and cooking yummy vegetarian meals with my roommates.
Wow. Yeah, I love vegetarian food.
It's
It
so
goes,
good.
yeah, it's at the intersection of like caring for our planet and being healthy for you.
Exactly. And tasting delicious.
Yeah, seriously. Veggies are really great. So, where'd you go to school?
Yeah, so I went to school at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky. And I graduated in 2018 with a degree in international economics and Spanish. And while I was there, I got really involved in environmental activism on my campus. We were trying to convince our college administration to implement a climate action plan to reduce our carbon footprint and move away from relying on dirty energy like coal and towards clean energy. And it took a long time, but we won the campaign, and the campus agreed to sign a climate action plan to reduce our carbon footprint. It was a great experience, and it taught me a lot about organizing and how you can make change even before you go into your career. After that, I also got to represent my university in our statewide environmental network that was called the Kentucky Student Environmental Coalition. And I met people from all over my state and the country that cared a lot about climate change.
Cool. It must have felt really good to be, meet other people with similar interests. I know for myself, I sometimes feel like being in the environment can feel kind of isolating, like if you really care a lot, but it's nice to know there are other folks.
Definitely. And I think it helps to keep you from feeling too overwhelmed when you know that there's a lot of people working on the same issues as you.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully more.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you focused on while you were at school?
Well, I would say that the most influential aspects of my undergrad education were the research projects that I did. I did 2 research projects with 2 different professors, and they were both related to climate change in some way. For the first project, I studied how climate change induced coffee plant plague that was called La Roya affected coffee producing communities in southern Mexico. For that project, I got to travel to Oaxaca, Mexico, and spend a summer interviewing farmers and learning about other social and environmental issues in Oaxaca. And the second project I did was with an economics professor. We studied how hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, which is taking natural gas out of the ground, affected the water quality of the communities that surrounded those natural gas wells.
Wow. Well, how does hydraulic fracturing and natural gas extraction uh, affect the water that's around those places?
It turns out that taking those fossil fuels out of the ground is not only bad for the environment, it's also not good for us humans, because a lot of times the chemicals from the fracking process leak into the water supply. And
Whoa.
we found that there was higher levels of the chemicals that were associated with fracking in the groundwater supply in those communities.
Wow. Good thing we have some alternatives, right?
Yeah, good thing.
So beyond school, what are some of the things that you've learned from some of the experiences that got you where you are today?
Mm. Well, I would say that throughout my activism and also through the Climate Corps Fellowship that brought me out to California, I had to do a lot of things that were outside of my comfort zone. So, for instance, in the research project that I was talking about in Oaxaca, I had to interview farmers in a different country, in a different language. And in my Climate Corps Fellowship, I had to, and in my activism also, I had to talk to big groups of my fellow students, or other groups that I was talking to, and even the president of my university when we were arguing for a climate action plan. I learned that it was really valuable to have a good team around you, and also to be patient with myself, because getting things wrong is part of the process, and especially when it comes to things that can be intimidating, like talking to your peers, or doing public speaking. You might not be perfect at it the first time around, but you'll just keep getting better. And
Yeah.
another thing I learned through learning about how climate change affects different parts of the world and different communities in different ways was to rethink the things that I thought I knew, to re-examine my assumptions, so that when I come into a situation or a conversation with someone, I should always believe that I'm going to learn something from them, not just teach something. And when I come in with that mindset, I always come away with a better and fuller perspective.
Wow. Yeah, I think that there's something we can learn from everyone, and I know that I'm learning a lot from this conversation right now. It's really hard to be patient with yourself, especially when you have big dreams and things you might want to get done.
It's true. And, you know, these issues like climate change are really big and can feel very overwhelming and urgent. And, it is urgent, but it's also important not to take all of the burden onto yourself, and to be patient with yourself.
So, Natalie, what's some advice you might have for kids that are in school right now thinking about their futures?
Hmm. Yeah, I would say don't be afraid of what you don't know. When I first started learning about environmentalism and climate change, and especially when I first started working in energy in my Climate Corps fellowship and at my current job here at the Energy Coalition, I felt like there's so much that I didn't know. But my mentors in both of my jobs encouraged me to just try to learn and to learn by doing. And that opened up a whole new field for me that I could contribute to. It doesn't really matter how long you've been working or studying, you're never going to stop learning. So it's important to stay curious and open-minded and follow what makes you excited.
Wow, thanks. I felt that right here. All right, so thank you so much for telling us about your journey. We have a couple of questions from the audience here. In
Great.
the chat. Oh, somebody is curious if you could talk a little bit more about like what your day-to-day is like. What is the day in a life of someone in your position?
Yeah. So in my position, I get to help out on different projects every day. Um, we serve over 160 of those public agencies that I told you about, the cities, school districts, water districts, counties, and all of them have all sorts of projects going on, from changing out light bulbs to make them more energy efficient, completely redoing their heating and air conditioning systems. Um, and what we're moving into now is to help them with projects like solar and battery. So my day-to-day is coordinating between the project managers at my company and the agencies to figure out how we can tackle the projects that are going to save them the most energy.
Wow, that's really neat. Thanks for sharing. Okay,
Yeah,
and we have one last question for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So when you think about the future,
Mm-hmm.
what kinds of problems do you want to be solving in this career or maybe your next job?
Mm. One thing that I think about a lot is I feel so lucky to have been able to move out here to California and learn a lot about the amazing environmental policy and the energy policy that California has pioneered here in this state. And I would love to someday bring some of that back to Kentucky, where the attitudes are a little different around environmental and energy policy. In my activism back home, we worked a lot on trying to come up with a just transition away from the coal mining industry where people could be retrained in jobs that would contribute to a cleaner environment instead of jobs that polluted the environment.
That sounds amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to work on those problems too.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of work to be done.
Cool. Well, if we have any other additional questions, I'll be from our viewers, I'll be sure to pass them your way. But thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Great, thanks for having me.
Of course. Take care.